Think about the last time someone in your group chat wouldn't stop talking, the coworker who interrupts every meeting, the friend who always makes things about them. You rolled your eyes, you vented to someone else about it. Maybe you just went quiet and let it pass. But the real answer to what humans have always done with people like this is far stranger and far older than an eye roll. Your brain has a system for this. It's ancient, it's automatic, and it didn't evolve for office meetings or group chats. It evolved for survival. 40,000 years ago, your ancestors lived in small bands. 20 people, maybe 50. Everyone knew everyone. There was no police force, no courts, no way to simply move to another city if someone became unbearable. So what happened when a member of the group was constantly disruptive, selfish, dangerous? The answer is not what you'd expect. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm spent decades studying small-scale societies that still live the way humans lived for most of our history. What he found was a system so consistent across unrelated cultures, from the Kalahari to the Arctic, that it couldn't be coincidence. Boehm called it reverse dominance hierarchy. In plain English, it means the group actively prevents any one person from gaining too much power, attention, or disruption over everyone else. How did they do it? Gossip came first. Long before confrontation, people talked, quietly, in pairs, about what so-and-so did this time. This wasn't just venting, it was data collection. It was the group quietly building a shared opinion before anyone had to act on it. Psychologist Robin Dunbar argued that this kind of talk wasn't a side effect of language. It was the reason language evolved in the first place. Dunbar studied primate grooming behavior and noticed something. Chimpanzees groom each other to maintain social bonds, but grooming only works in small groups. You can only pick lice off so many backs in a day. Humans, Dunbar proposed, developed language as a kind of vocal grooming, a way to maintain bonds and monitor behavior across a much larger group than physical touch ever could. So when you vent about a coworker to your friend, you're not just blowing off steam, you're doing something your ancestors did around every fire that has ever burned. You're checking, does everyone else see this person the way I do? If gossip didn't work, the next step was ridicule, mockery, a pointed joke, an exaggerated impression of the person's behavior performed in front of others. This sounds harsh, but ridicule serves a function. Gossip can't. It's public. It signals to the disruptive person in front of everyone that their behavior has been noticed and is not approved of. And critically, it does this without violence. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody has to fight. The message just lands. Have you ever noticed how often comedy targets the person who talks too much, who brags too much, who breaks the unspoken rules of a group? That's not a coincidence either. Comedy may be one of the oldest enforcement tools humans have. It's not just a human thing either. Primatologist Frans de Waal documented something strikingly similar in chimpanzee communities. When a chimp became too aggressive, too domineering, or violated the group's social norms one too many times, other chimps would coordinate against it. Not through planning exactly, through something more like contagious social pressure. One chimp would scream at the offender. Others would join. Sometimes the group would physically push the individual away from food, from grooming, from the center of the group's activity. De Waal called this kind of behavior part of the foundation for what he termed moral emotions. The chimps weren't just reacting to being personally wronged, they were reacting on behalf of the group, even when they hadn't been the direct target. Sound familiar? It's the same instinct that makes you feel a flicker of satisfaction when a group finally calls out someone who's been getting away with bad behavior for months, even if that behavior was never directed at you. This suggests something important. The urge to police group members isn't a uniquely human invention layered on top of culture. It's older than culture. It's older than language. It may be older than our species itself. But what if ridicule didn't work? What if the person kept going? Then came avoidance. People would simply stop including the person, stop sharing food with them, stop inviting them on hunts, stop talking to them at all. In a small band where every relationship mattered for survival, this wasn't a minor social slight. It was a slow withdrawal of the entire support system a person depended on to stay alive. And here's where it gets stranger. Psychologist Kipling Williams spent his career studying what happens to people who experience this kind of social exclusion, which he called ostracism. Williams ran an experiment called Cyberball, where participants played a simple game of catch on a computer with two other players. In reality, those players were programmed. At a certain point, they simply stopped throwing the ball to the participant. That's it. No insults, no conflict, just nothing. Brain scans showed something remarkable. The same regions that activate during physical pain lit up. Being excluded didn't just feel bad. To your brain, it registered as something close to actual injury. Pause on that for a second. A computer game, strangers, a ball that stopped coming your way. And your brain responded as if you'd been hurt. Now think about what that means for your ancestors. If being ignored by two strangers in a fake ball game can trigger a pain response, imagine what it meant to be excluded by the only 20 people on Earth who could keep you alive. Ostracism wasn't a social inconvenience, it was, evolutionarily speaking, a death sentence with a long fuse. This is why your brain takes social rejection so seriously, even now, even when the stakes are nothing like they used to be. Being left out of a group chat, watching others make plans without you, noticing someone go quiet around you. None of these things can hurt you. Not really, not in any way that matters for your survival, but your brain doesn't know that. Your brain is still running software built for a world where exclusion meant exile, and exile meant death. But avoidance wasn't always the final step. Sometimes it escalated further. In the most extreme cases, documented across hunter-gatherer societies on nearly every continent, the group's response went beyond cold shoulders. A person who repeatedly endangered others, who stole food during a famine, who used violence against members of their own band, could face the most severe consequence available: exile. Sometimes permanent. Think about what exile actually meant in that world. There was no neighboring town to walk to, no stranger who would take you in. Outside the band was wilderness, predators, rival groups who owed you nothing. To be exiled wasn't a punishment in the way we think of punishment today. It was closer to a slow, almost certain death sentence, just one delivered without anyone laying a hand on you. This is the part that should stop you for a second. The most severe punishment available to your ancestors required no weapons, no violence, no formal trial. It required only that everyone agree to stop including someone. The group simply stopped, and that was enough. Now compare that to today. You can't actually be exiled anymore. Not really. A person who's excluded from one friend group can find another. A person who's blocked on one platform can join 5 more. The literal physical stakes of exclusion have mostly disappeared. And yet, the feeling hasn't disappeared, not even slightly. This is the mismatch at the center of almost every modern social anxiety. Your circumstances changed completely. Your hardware did not. You're walking around with a survival alarm system that was calibrated for a world where being unliked could kill you, and you're using it on a world where, mostly, it can't. There's a flip side to all of this, though, and it's the part most people miss. The same systems that punish disruptive group members also protected against something else: tyranny. Boehm's research showed that these small societies weren't just policing annoying people, they were policing anyone who tried to dominate the group, anyone who got too aggressive, too controlling, too convinced of their own importance. The same gossip, ridicule, and exclusion that handled the disruptive member also handled the bully, the bragger, the would-be chief. In other words, your ancestors built an entire invisible justice system, running on nothing but conversation and social withdrawal, and it worked well enough to keep small groups stable for tens of thousands of years before a single law was ever written down. So what does this mean for you? Every time you talk about someone's behavior with a friend, you're using the oldest accountability tool humans have. Every time a group chat goes quiet on someone, or a friend group slowly stops including a person without ever having the conversation, you're watching reverse dominance hierarchy play out in real time, just with phones instead of firelight. And every time you feel that sharp, almost physical sting of being left out, even over something small, you're feeling a warning system that was once tied directly to your survival. None of this makes the feeling less real. If anything, it makes it make more sense. You're not overreacting when exclusion hurts. You're running code that's been in testing for a very long time. Knowing this won't switch the alarm off, but it can change how you respond to it. The next time you notice yourself spiraling over a slow reply, a missed invitation, a joke that didn't land the way you hoped, try naming what's actually happening. This is the ostracism alarm. This is the part of your brain that once kept your ancestors alive by keeping them inside the group. It's firing because it's supposed to fire. It just doesn't have access to the rest of the information. It doesn't know you have other friends, other plans, a life that continues whether or not this one person responds tonight. And on the other side of it, the next time you feel that pull toward gossip, toward a joke at someone else's expense, toward quietly easing a person out of a group, recognize that too. You're not being petty. You're running one of the oldest social programs your species has. The question worth asking isn't whether the instinct is real. It clearly is. The question is whether, in this particular case, it's pointed at something that actually deserves it, or whether it's just an old alarm going off in a new world. So the next time someone in your group chat won't stop talking and you find yourself quietly texting a friend about it, notice what you're actually doing. You're not just venting. You're not just being petty. You're doing exactly what humans have always done. You're maintaining the group.